rocking, baby. I'm rocking.
Yeah, right. Let's go. All right. Hello
I,
again.
yeah, I think you've changed since I've seen you last.
I got my hair cut.
Well, you
Oh,
put
you
on a
mean?
hat and
Yeah.
you put on a sport coat, and I'm still
Yeah.
wearing the same damn shirt that I wore in the last show.
I don't want our EV watchers to think that I don't care about them and that I would just throw on any schlub thing for
Hmm.
them. I dress for them.
So what are you saying? That I
No,
don't care?
not saying it. That's not a remark on you or on what I wore on your show. That was not it. Just saying I have an image I have created here. I know people like my
Yes.
jackets.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
go with that.
Okay. No, I was. By the way, I want you to know I actually shaved for you today.
No,
Not that it would matter. I know a couple of weeks, like a week or so ago, you shaved. You had no beard. Um,
I shaved the whole time you were gone, Ray.
yeah. Okay.
I did. And then stopped the moment you got back.
But I am impressed how quickly you can go from no beard to beard, and I could spend a lifetime trying to grow a beard, and it just doesn't happen.
It doesn't get very full. That's my thing. Like it can't get like a Jake Gyllenhaal sort of
Yeah.
full
Yeah.
beard. Like I can't get that. Wish I
Okay.
could. I would have
Yeah.
that.
I can't even get yours.
I keep mine close for a reason. It looks
Yes.
best like that.
I
So
understand.
what are we talking about today?
When
Oh, that's
EV
right.
startups go boom shakalaka.
Yeah. So I feel like there's quite a few we just discussed. So for those who might tune in here who weren't on the other show,
Yes.
which is nobody, but we're going to go with it anyway. Um, so any news about Lucid?
Well, that's interesting that you should ask. Lucid posted their first quarter earnings. Okay, let me rephrase that. Lucid posted their first quarter losses.
Yeah. Okay. There
Okay,
you go. Yeah.
because they don't really have earnings; they have losses. And in the first quarter, now let me define a quarter for everybody, just so everybody understands. This is January, February, March. That's it. Okay, January, February, March. That's the first quarter. Lucid delivered 1,406 new Lucids. I don't want to suggest that that's a record for a quarter, but it very well might be. And having said that, after having delivered those 1,406 new Lucids, they reported a loss of $780 million for that quarter. Now, let me help you with the ridiculousness of all this, folks. For every new Lucid that they sold, they lost $555,000 per car. $555,000 per car, which Jim Farley at Ford goes to his investors. Look at us. We're losing $490,000 or $495,000 less per electric vehicle sold than Lucid is. Look how much better at this we are than they are.
That's right. And all they have to do is scale up their business to win. Because if you're losing $60,000 per vehicle and you scale that to 1 million vehicles, that should, of course, turn into a profit somehow.
And for Lucid, it can and will never turn into a profit.
Yeah.
But
so Lucid, the Saudi government and some companies have invested heavy into Lucid. They don't own Lucid.
Yeah. But the Saudis are an investor.
Yeah. Large investors, which, of course.
Well, they have to hedge their bets, because fossil fuels are going away.
Yeah, I mean, and Saudi's investing in lots and lots of stuff all over the place. So they've got a lot invested into some Chinese EVs as well. So it's they're smart. They're hedging their bets all the way around. Maybe this one's not going to work out for them. Rivian is not losing quite that much, but Rivian is still struggling after all this time too.
Well, actually, Rivian is losing double that. I believe they lost like $1.5 billion in the first quarter. But the key for Rivian is that they're actually building additional plants. I don't know why they haven't gotten anywhere near the 50,000 production limit at their existing plant.
Yeah.
But they're investing in another plant in Georgia, and they actually have orders in pre-orders, especially in comparison to what Lucid has, because they've got a whole 2,800 cars that are pre-ordered. Lucid probably has several thousand more, maybe tens of thousands more, just from
Rivian,
Amazon.
Yeah. Rivian has, they've a lot more. Like, they're struggling to keep up with the reservations. Lucid is, in fairness, I guess so is Lucid, even though they have 2,800 reservations. But but 6 of 1. But as Igor pointed out, Tesla did struggle the first 10, 15 years they were around. How many times did they almost go bankrupt? And Elon put every cent he had living on friends' couches, kind of, sleeping on the floor of the factory because he had sold everything else, like in there. So it's even for what is now the most successful EV vehicle maker. The startup is really, really hard. Yes. And not everyone has the backing that Tesla did from all kinds of people all over the place, or the dedication from, and I'm not just talking Elon, but that whole team, from factory workers to executives, were sleeping on the floor of offices, on couches, catching cat naps to make that company go.
Yes.
It was a true startup in true startup fashion. So, with dedication from everybody from top to bottom. So, they got through that way, and it's hard to find that. It's hard to find that I don't anticipate like Lucid's doing that. Rivian seems like maybe they're the kind of spirited company that might do that. Mm-hmm. But then you also have some traditional, Fisker. How many times have they gone up and down? And that's not a joke about their cars ending up at the bottom of the ocean, but they did.
Some did, yes.
Yeah. A whole model went down, and they never revived that model because they all sank. And Fisker's struggling, and they're not new to the car game, right? They've been in it for a while, right, Ray?
Well, yeah, Fisker's been around for a long time. But this is the first time I would suggest in Fisker's history that they're actually planning on producing something that the mass market would be interested in. They have always specialized. Yeah, they have always specialized in very niche vehicles. Some of the most unusual vehicles you could ever hope to see or drive. So this is, I believe, their first foray into something that will appeal to a much larger segment of potential buyers out there. And the Ocean, I remember when Mario sent me some information about the Fisker Ocean, and it was like I saw that and hell, I was ready to sign up for one.
I think the Ocean could be, and I think Igor here disagrees with me on this. I think the Ocean could be the turnaround for Fisker. I think that they could make it, assuming that they can make it through, and it's hard, but they have strategic partnerships out there. I think they're speaking to a very specific crowd with their marketing materials, but I think they've got decent range, decent charging time, under 40,000 for, a little SUV, a compact SUV. I think they could possibly do it. And I like the looks of the Ocean. I mean, it's a nice looking vehicle. There was one at the auto show 2 years ago, or a couple there that we looked at from a distance because that's all we were able to look at it. But you know, it's a good looking car, and I think they have a chance. But the point is that they're still struggling, and they've done this for a long time.
And they have, and I have a question for you as you were speaking about all that. What is it in your mind do you think makes for a successful EV startup? Is it the look of the vehicle? Is it the history of the people that are involved with the startup of it? You know, because obviously some companies start up and succeed, while many start up and fail dramatically.
Yeah.
And go down in flames. So, in your mind's eye, what do you think it is that separates those that make it from those that don't?
I mean, I think you have to have excellent management who knows the space inside and out, or has, like Elon, who had no concept of it, and the team. I say Elon, but we all know it's a whole team. It's not one man in there making all the decisions. He's got the engineers, he's got the industry experts, he's got all that. But like a Tesla with all those people, they didn't necessarily know the market super well. They knew how they could change the market. So it takes vision, it takes work ethic and drive. It's very hard to get through all that without that. But you need that from the whole team. I've mentioned them before. I'll mention them forever because I love the Tucker. I remember the Tucker.
Yes.
That was a man who had a vision. He had a drive. He went through it, but of course, the political establishment squashed him. The big three made sure he never made it. Even though we have lots of things from that car in all of our cars today, he definitely changed the industry. He didn't have the team that was sleeping on the factory floor kind of thing. And I think you kind of need that in this. And you need very, very, very deep pockets who believe in you. You know, and that's where Elon, that's where he came in and shined for Tesla. Was he wasn't inventing anything. He brought in some deep pockets and lots of friends with super deep pockets who saw the vision and said, yeah, let's all dump in. And, you know, all those times that Tesla almost went bankrupt, there was always somebody going, okay, here's some more money. So we talk about that with Lucid. You know, they have enough to get through, you know,
the second quarter
of next year.
Yeah.
They lost $555,000 per vehicle manufactured. And they still have enough money to get through. So, you know, I'm not going to count them out yet, because having that much money from people who believe in you can make a difference.
Well, you know, they have what in essence amounts to 12 months of runway. And for a company like that, 12 months of runway ain't a lot.
Yeah. You know? Well, and if they don't start delivering, that 12 months will become nothing because people won't reinvest.
When we talk about this space, it reminds me of like 1977. 1976, 1977. And what it reminds me of is when in the state of New Jersey, they voted on a referendum to allow casino gaming in Atlantic City. Okay. And Resorts International was the first one to take over an older hotel, refurbish it, change things so that they could have the casino, and they opened up. And with the advent of casino gaming came all these startups who said, well, we're going to have a hotel casino. And there were so many projects that were announced and so many projects that were actually started and so many projects that were left with just skeletons of raw steel beams that had gone up maybe 2 or 3 floors before. I don't know. They ran out of money, and there might have been plans at one time for like 24, 25 casino hotels, and I think at the peak there were 11 or 12, and now it's down to 8, I think 7 or 8. But it reminds me of that time where there was this frenzy where everybody came up with an idea, found some investor who said, that's a good idea. Okay. Got some money and was able to publicize it, start it, buy the grant, whatever, before they just disappeared completely. Well, I see that happening in the EV space, the same exact thing.
You're right. And, it's even more applicable to that is Vegas, right? When the corporations came in and pushed the mob out, maybe, or at least partnered with them, however that went about. And that whole renaissance of Vegas happened. There's still ghost hotels on the strip, right? I mean, kind of down at the other end, but so even in the most successful environment where you could do something like that, there were major failures. And I think that is a good indication of what it's like in this. We see Ford struggling. GM is sort of biding their time. I think they're kind of the one to watch in this EV space. I think they're going to come out with some EV trucks, which trucks are what people are buying. So they're going to come out with some trucks and make the Lightning look kind of silly, I think. And you're gonna have a lot of that coming out. I think you'll have a lot of SUVs starting to come out because people want those, and that's going to change the market. I think you watch GM. Ford is struggling. So many other people are struggling in the space because they don't know how to innovate and change. And as I've said a million times, and I'll keep saying it, and watch out for Toyota. Anyone who's counted them out has misjudged that company.
Yeah, I don't, Toyota's been pretty successful. That doesn't mean that a really successful company can't at some point not fail. It can happen. Sears was a pretty successful business at one time. I don't think it is today, but it was at one time. So it can happen. But I agree with you. I'm not ready to necessarily write off Toyota as being a big player in the industry and figuring it out. I would think they should be able to do that. They've been innovative enough over their history that you would think they'll figure it out enough to not only survive but to thrive. That's just so I agree with you on that. But there's others.
Toyota's announced their plans that they've announced for retooling some plants and building new ones. You kind of go, okay, well, I see I see what you're doing. You're getting ready to just burst back onto the scene.
Yeah. I must say that you sent me a video the other day about the GigaPress or whatever it was. Yeah, the die-cast press or whatever. That is so fascinating. And,
I think people who have not studied Tesla are the ones who sort of throw off some silly comments about, it's a fad and these people are this is a Tesla killer and that's a Tesla killer. Man, that company is not a couple years ahead of everybody. They're a decade ahead of everybody else at the least. And they keep doing it. They keep leapfrogging everybody. Yesterday, we watched in Texas the lithium mine groundbreaking.
Yes.
Which he pulled up in a Cybertruck, by the way, because it's a real truck that's coming.
Sure.
People don't believe me, but I can send you videos, Ray. But Tesla is so far ahead of everybody else. And everyone thinks that they're going to, this is going to kill Tesla and that's going to kill Tesla. And this is a misstep and that's a misstep, man. They're so far ahead of everybody else. And this is, and that's not like fanboy talking. That is someone who just researches that company
Yeah.
and knows where they are. And you look at things like the Gigapress, and that was what was that, like 12 years ago, right? When Elon's like, well, I can't do it. We got to find somebody who
can. Yeah.
can. And oh, look at that. Like there's 5 major players in the space, and 4 of them said that
No.
can't be done.
Yeah.
And one of them said, yeah, okay, we'll do that.
Yeah. No, it was interesting how innovative it is. The fact that you can die cast almost in one piece the body of the vehicle. It's astonishing.
Well, the Model Y, what they decreased 71 parts down to 1.
Yeah. That's pretty impressive when you think about it. Yeah.
That's where the weight and the time and the speed. That's why in this market where everyone's struggling to get everyone except for domestic is struggling to get inventory, especially on their EVs, Tesla's able to say, if you go onto Tesla's website now, almost any vehicle you pick, you're going to get in less than 4 weeks.
Wow.
So you order it however you want to order it, customize it how you want. And it's less than 4 weeks on a lot of them are less than 3 weeks on almost all models. And you just boom, okay, there you go. And because they can just produce them, they can produce.
Did you see that 60-minute segment Sunday night about lithium mining and production in the Salton Sea area of California?
I did not, but I mean, I know that I live in California. We tout the lithium coming here like pretty big, even though I think it's somewhat counter to our normal message here of environmentalism.
No, this was really an interesting development as far as being able to do the lithium mining that needs to be done, and have a vast majority of that lithium mining being handled right here in the United States, and such a huge portion of it that could be handled right there in Southern California.
Yeah. And with the new innovations they have with some of these materials that are using what has traditionally been the waste from lithium mining, they're now finding ways to use that in batteries to use a lot of that waste. So you're not getting rid of all the waste, but you're using a lot more of it. Couple that with recycling, and the projections on recycling on these batteries is in 40 years, which I know is a long time, but in 40 years, recycling will be so much that you don't need to mine anymore, because lest we forget, these are metals. They don't degrade.
Yeah.
They're not going away. Their usefulness degrades, but the metal doesn't. So you can just keep recycling and recycling and recycling.
Kind of like with aluminum cans.
Yes. You can just throw them in the ocean and you let somebody else go.
Now, what other EV manufacturers have struggled? Is a company like VinFast, are they going to be able to make it in the United States, or is that just wishful thinking on their behalf?
So I'm not. I mean, VinFast isn't going away. They're enormous company that have been operating and building vehicles for decades as well.
Yeah.
And they're still producing ICE vehicles back in Vietnam. But their EV division, I don't know, because they're kind of coming at it. And I said, I like innovation. And I've said many times, I actually like their model of their battery subscription separate from the vehicle thing, meaning it's always under warranty if it's under a lease, and you can upgrade the battery over time and keep your same vehicle. So I think it's a smart idea. Whether all Americans think it's a smart idea, whether they go for that, we'll still see, because their numbers aren't stellar right now, but they're still starting up. But there's lots of companies out there. Man, who did Mullen buy? Because Mullen just bought one that was a dead brand, and they're trying to revive them. I know Faraday started. What I found, Faraday started the same year that Tesla did.
Did it really?
They did.
Okay.
And they delivered their first car in January.
Wow. Well,
So,
the only reason you take that much time is because you want to get it right.
well, so at the LA Auto Show 2 years ago, Mario and I went
Yeah.
for a drive and went a test drive in the Faraday.
Yeah.
It's $300,000 van
Yeah.
meant for executives because the back seats fully reclined. They were massaging, including your ankles. There were two gigantic, I think 32-inch screens in the back.
Wow.
And you can control, you can do your computer stuff. You do like they're meant for executive level stuff. Like I couldn't even, if I had $1 billion, I couldn't
Yeah.
buy one because I have nothing to do in that vehicle. So like I'm not productive enough to need that.
Yes.
But it was a really nice vehicle. So they're going after a very, very different market than say everybody else.
Well, yeah, they're not interested in a mass market. What's going on with Lordstown Motors?
Lordstown's done. They called it quits. They said, "Yep, we're finishing up the last of these, and we're out." And that's another one. Like, how long has Lordstown been around, Ray?
Well,
Building stuff.
the facility's been
Long
around
time.
for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they just can't make it in the EV space. And Nikola, I don't know if you know Nikola. They build semis. They
Okay.
were they wanted to go after Tesla and the semi space. Well, they just announced, I think 2 weeks ago, they're transitioning to all hydrogen. So they're getting
Wow.
away from the pure electric to all hydrogen, which I think Justin and I have mentioned many times. Hydrogen makes sense
Yes.
for those kind of vehicles. For big trucks like that, it actually makes some sense. It's super expensive. The hydrogen's still expensive, but it's not like those trucks don't cost a lot in fuel anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. How many miles to the gallon did trucks like that get when it's hydrogen?
I don't know the exact number. But it's decent. Like they get a decent range. Vamp for a second while I look that up
Okay. Because you know me, I ask too many questions that I guess we should review the questions I was going to ask before I ask them, but my mind
500 miles is the answer. It gets 500 miles.
Wow, that's pretty good for a
So
truck.
yeah, for a big rig on the hydrogen. So like that, there's nothing wrong with that. That's
Yeah,
good. And of
I
course,
could get hooked on
hydrogen.
that hydrogen. Yeah,
Yeah, that's going to take you, well, probably at the capacity that those need, they'll
yeah,
probably take you about 10 to 12 minutes to fill up.
yeah. Well,
And then
that's still a
another,
shorter time than charging.
yeah, absolutely, a lot shorter time than charging.
Yeah,
And then you add another 5 minutes because I don't know if those who haven't used hydrogen, I don't know if you guys know this, but that nozzle often freezes.
wow.
Because the hydrogen coming out is so cold. So it'll actually kind of freeze the two units together. So what it's done, you got to wait for 5-6 minutes for it to thaw out so you can remove.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, it gets that cold, and then it's been a problem for. I've had a few Mirai customers come back, and that was part of it. Is like it doubles my time because I have to wait for it to thaw out afterwards. I'm like, well, that's fair.
Now, are there any new? And when I say new, I mean like within the last year or so, EV startups that have announced that they're going to eventually bring cars to the market that are trying to become new players in the market.
Mostly. So I don't know that there's a lot of people in America doing that. There's definitely, you have BYD out of China, which is still relatively new. You got a few companies out of China that are new. That's sort of going to come over here. They're just not here yet. And I think that's really what we're going to see in the space is other countries like VinFast did. We haven't seen a lot of the Korean automakers step up yet. I mean, Hyundai, obviously.
Yeah.
And man, did they make a boom when they came out. So rivaling Tesla just immediately out the gate is fantastic. So I think we'll see hopefully a lot more of those of people who are like bringing out those vehicles from those places. Like I said, I think Toyota is probably the one to watch there. Although Honda is partnering with Samsung
and Sony.
and Sony. Yep.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're going to see that. I think you'll see probably the most competition from some of the overseas legacy automakers that are biding their time.
Are there brands of EVs in Europe that are not ever intended to come to the United States?
Yeah, I mean, Renault makes one that
Really?
That's only over there. I know there's like one or two others. The problem in Europe is they don't have incentives there for the manufacturers. That's been a big thing they've been debating in Parliament over there, that most of their vehicles are imported into the UK because they're not very friendly to these automakers. And they do things like they're trying to do with Apple and say, you have to use this charging port, and then we're going to fine you if it doesn't have the right speed, even though Apple never said it's going to throttle anything, but they're still threatening the company. So it's those kind of practices that they do the same with the automakers, that not a lot in the UK being built over there.
If you were to guess, if you had a crystal ball, unlike the one that I have that I bought at the dollar store, but if you had a good crystal ball, what do you think I'm trying to think of the right way to phrase this. How many major players do you suspect there will be in the EV market in the United States?
I think it's going to boil down to kind of what it's sort of always boiled down to. I think you're going to get 6 to 8 major players from around the world competing in the space, and that's probably about all you'll have. Whether they own multiple brands, as I know we talked before the show, I still think there's a chance that like Lucid and Rivian get bought out by someone and go under the same umbrella, and you start doing sort of that thing. Like, okay, so Lucid is our sedan division and Rivian is our truck division, and then we have whatever other brands. I think there's a chance of those things happening, but it'll still be under one umbrella.
Gotcha. Kind of like what Volkswagen Group did with all the various brands that they own under the Volkswagen Group name.
And Stellantis,
yes,
that nobody even knows the name Stellantis. They just know all their products.
Yes.
So I think that I don't think Tesla will likely, everyone keeps thinking Tesla's going to buy this or that. I don't think Tesla's going to buy anybody. I think they're fine to just go, we are Tesla, and we're going to have a $150,000 car, and we're going to have a $20,000 car, and we're going to keep them under the same name, and we're okay with that, because that's usually where those divisions happen, right? Is you call your expensive one a different name.
Do you think like Hyundai does with Genesis? Do you think that ultimately, say 10, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, that Tesla will at that time still be the number one volume EV manufacturer and seller probably in the world?
I do. I think they'll be the number one seller. Now, are they going to have 56% market share? No, they're not. If you look at ICE vehicles, nobody has that market share. So no, they're not going to have 56% market share, but are they still going to be the number one EV retailer? By a lot, I think, because they're going to keep innovating and they're going to keep doing all the things that they've still been doing. I don't see them, and again, like I say Elon, but I mean the team, because so if Elon leaves Tesla, that team is still really, really solid. And they're that team is the innovators. So I think you could lose an Elon or one or two people and still keep that company as innovative, as forward going, and as doing everything that has made them the leader. And I don't see that changing in 20 years. Even if Elon blasts off to Mars, I think Tesla keeps going and keeps doing all the things that they do that make them so successful.
Wow. I mean, I think I agree with you. I think I think what started as this idea, this concept of being able to utilize electricity to fuel our vehicles, that Tesla has taken it, run with it, figured it out better than anybody else. Grabbed market share when market share was there to be grabbed, and I don't think they're going to be willing to give up what they've taken anytime soon.
Well, and as I said earlier, yesterday I watched the groundbreaking on the lithium mine in Texas. I'm sorry, what other automaker is mining their own materials to make their own batteries? Tesla is making their own batteries now, not fully. They're still in partnership due to capacity constraints, but they're making their own batteries too. Now they're getting ready to mine the materials to make their own batteries. Nobody else is there yet. Everyone else is still sitting back thinking, oh, that's silly. We don't need to do that. And well, Tesla's always so far ahead of everybody. 20 years, I don't think they're going to be on par with, I know we had a Ford is going to have 30%, Tesla's going to have 30% now. Like nobody's going to be that far. Yeah, sorry. I do keep saying mine. It's a refinery. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's a refinery, not a mine. So I apologize. I do keep saying mine. I mean refinery. But they're doing all these things, and they're opening up an actual mine in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And they're partnering with the Canadian government. It's really smart. And, what do we have? Oops, wrong one. It's vertical integration, as James says.
Yes.
And they're the masters at that. Now, some people hate vertical integration. They hate Apple for everything that they do. And you get stuck in the system. But from a company point of view, I mean, that's where it's going. And I know we were going to talk on the other show, but we didn't get to it in time. But the subscription model that so many OEMs are going to, one of the benefits some people said was, well, I get to try a technology to see if I like it.
Yes.
So as you know, I know lots of Tesla owners in my area. We get together, we talk, we talk at the charging stations and all this. I know 6 people who have bought full self-driving beta on the monthly subscription just to try it out, just to see, hey, look, is this something that I would want to do or not? So it's not a, hey, I have to fork out $10,000 up front and then go, hey, I don't like full self-driving, or it's not ready for that, or whatever it is. You can fork out $200 a month and go, do I like it? And those kind of subscriptions is what Tesla's doing. They're not doing heated seats or the radio channel. What they're doing is something real and massive that could cost a lot of money, but they're saying, here's just a little bit of money and you can try it out and see if you like it.
Which sort of makes sense.
That makes sense. That kind of technology makes sense.
Before you make that giant ass commitment.
Yeah. Or, since Tesla does not transfer full self-driving beta.
Yeah.
So even if you paid the $10,000, it doesn't transfer to a new owner, and it doesn't transfer with you to a new car. So some people have some complaints about that. So if you're going to keep the car for 3 years, and get a new one, why pay the $10,000? Isn't $200 a month better?
Well, yeah.
So I mean, that those kind of things are what Tesla does, where you can go, well, they have a subscription. Yeah, but the way they even do their subscriptions make more sense than what a lot of the other automakers are doing, or at least saying they're going to do. I haven't actually seen BMW charge for heated steering wheel or seats or anything.
Not in the U.S., but they do in Europe.
Which in Europe, I also go with, maybe it makes more sense there. I actually do have this thing about the heated seats as a Californian, like, oh, I would use that 3 weeks out of the year.
Yeah.
So maybe I would like to subscribe
Yeah,
and
for
then
3
not pay
weeks.
it for the rest of the time.
Yeah. Can I get a weekly subscription?
Yeah, exactly.
Can I get an Airbnb for my heated seats? Yeah. Interesting stuff. So 20 years from now, there'll be 6 to 8 major players that are manufacturing EVs. There'll be some smaller niche players.
Yeah.
The
Mitsubishis of the EV world.
The Lotuses of the EV world.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see exactly what the future holds.
That's the other problem with subscriptions, by the way, is as we all know, everything can be hacked.
I've heard that.
And so if you have something in your car that needs a subscription to turn on, someone's going to figure out how to turn it on.
I would think, yeah. I believe in technology, but only to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, everything can be hacked. Everything can be hacked.
Do you know what time it is?
It is time for you to get lunch, I think.
Exactly. It's almost 1:30. It's lunchtime, man.
Yeah. And it's time for me to go to a million different meetings. I have like Zach scheduled today. So
wow. I am so glad that I am just the face of the franchise, and I don't spend the bulk of my, it's at nearly 72. I don't want to spend the bulk of my days in various and assorted meetings. I don't mind doing a couple shows a day, and filming some videos when needed, but I'll just say meetings aren't my thing.
Ray, you already know meetings are not my thing either. I try to avoid them like the plague, but
yes, but my son, God bless him, he loves them.
When you run a company that is 98.9% remote,
yes,
there's not a lot of options you have.
Yeah, you have to have meetings.
So, yeah. So that is what it is.
Okay. Well, enjoy your meetings.
Yes. And you enjoy your lunch.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.
We'll see you back here tomorrow, won't we?
Yeah, that's right. I have no idea what we're talking about. I'll figure it out in one of the meetings. Cool. Maybe we'll have a meeting about what we should talk about.
Perhaps we should, but I won't be there.
All right. Bye.